At the beginning, Urayama Minoru sat hunched over a magazine, flipping through its pages while saying the girls featured were all ugly and they couldn't fathom what he even saw in them. One friend turned philosophical and suddenly shouted, "What the fuck, Urayama?" He reminded everyone that Minoru had always been suspiciously popular with the guys, suggesting that if Minoru didn't like these girls, it might say something telling about his own preferences. Before Minoru could fully process the jab, the roast intensified as they pointed out his girly face and urged him to book an immediate appointment with an eye doctor. Minoru could only snap back in frustration with a sharp, "Who?" The conversation soon shifted to the heavyweights of the idol world, specifically Maeda. One of them remarked that she was really disliked. The group quickly reached a consensus. Her time was over, and it was obvious she would lose the upcoming elections. They found it bizarre how nobody seemed to like her anymore. One friend tried to play the voice of reason, blaming the anti-fans, while another insisted she simply wasn't motivated anymore. Amid the chatter, suddenly a sharp thud of a magazine slamming onto the table cut through the noise. A sudden crash jolted the group as Yoshinaga Hiroko stormed into view. The guys let out a collective "whoa" and stuttered her name in panicked disarray. Minoru sat speechless, managing only a feeble and as he stared at her. The atmosphere shifted instantly because of that day, leaving the boys wondering who exactly had made her this furious. As she stormed off, leaving her Yanmaga behind, the teasing resumed. They knew Minoru liked Yoshinaga and took delight in watching a girl make him blush so hard his face might actually melt. But one friend told him not to hide it, claiming that the word love was like a diamond. Minoru tried to deny everything. The interrogation pressed on. They warned him that she probably already had a boyfriend. The serious Yoshinaga Hiroko, the rare pure girl with long black hair. Then his one friend, Saif, he had accidentally overheard some girls talking about a meeting this Saturday, and just thinking about it sent heat rushing through her body. Whenever they met, she grew incredibly nervous and felt like she was losing herself. Despite the internal chaos and the rising warmth, he told them he didn't care. Saturday arrived and the city buzzed with energy. Minoru spotted Yoshinaga and realized she was completely prepared for whatever was about to happen. He tried to justify his own presence, insisting to himself that he didn't fit the definition of a stalker, which he hilariously misunderstood as people who shove coal into boilers, thanks to a Japanese pun. He wondered if this was even the right meeting place, only to be confronted with the overwhelming reality of the AKB48 concert venue at Yokohama Arena. This couldn't be happening. He stood frozen before the massive crowd, stunned that his serious crush was actually a hardcore idol fan. Relief flooded through him when he saw that she had come alone. That meant the one she loved was probably an idol, not some secret boyfriend. He silently thanked God for the revelation, a wide grin spreading across his face. In the midst of his quiet celebration, he noticed a small black card lying on the ground. Some idiot had dropped an all-area pass for the AKB48 concert. He picked it up, wondering what kind of fool would lose their ticket, while also noting that he hadn't been sleeping well lately. Seizing the chance, he approached Yoshinaga and asked if she was alone, suggesting they'd go in together. She looked surprised. "Urayama-kun?" Using the pass, he slipped through a door marked staff only, trailing after a staff member who directed him to head this way if he had that pass. He still found it strange that the serious Yoshinaga followed idols, but the sheer scale of the event was staggering. Even TV stations were present, making him wonder if AKB was really that good. He wandered through a confusing maze of doors in search of the concert, only to accidentally stumble toward the dressing room. He pushed open a door and froze. The room was filled with girls in various stages of undress, mostly wearing plaid skirts and butterfly-patterned bras, busily fixing their hair, chatting, and preparing, completely unaware of the intruder at first. Minoru stood paralyzed in the doorway, eyes wide as he absorbed the chaotic, high-energy backstage world. The realization struck him hard. This was the AKB48 dressing room. He recognized one of the girls. He had seen her somewhere before. It was Takahashi Minami, and she was definitely not happy to see him. She let out a sharp gasp, her face flushing with a mix of anger and embarrassment as she registered that a guy had just walked in. Takahashi Minami screamed, "Pervert!" at the top of her lungs, her expression twisted in rage and shame. Minoru waved his hands frantically, stammering that this was all a mistake, but the damage was done. He could already picture the headlines, AKB-48 peeper caught in the act. He imagined Yoshinaga staring at him in disgust, telling him he sucked. If he got caught now, his life was over. He needed to move, fast. He bolted for the exit, but his luck had run dry. He crashed straight into Kojima Haruna, who was casually holding a bottle and asking if anyone had some Hyaluron-san moisturizer. The collision was loud and awkward. Minoru was a sweating, panicking mess, eyes spinning as he tried to navigate the sea of idols. He mumbled a quick "sorry," his mind screaming that he had to escape before security or more furious idols arrived. His frantic escape led to another collision, this time with Watanabe Mayu, better known as Mayuyu. They both hit the floor, and for a fleeting second, Minoru's brain betrayed him by noting that the angle of the fall had been perfect. He shook off the thought, telling himself it wasn't important right now. Mayuyu looked up, dazed, her main concern being that her bangs were now messed up. Minoru scrambled to his feet, apologizing profusely, while another idol in the background stared in absolute shock. Before he could get far, a pair of arms wrapped around him from behind. Oshima Yuko gave him a playful squeeze, calling out the Sae with a heart in her voice. But the hug quickly turned awkward when she realized something was off. She bluntly commented that he was flat, even too flat for Sae. Minoru stood there, blushing furiously, as Yuko laughed it off, noting that he was just a guy so skinny from behind that she had mistaken him for a girl. The chaos continued unabated. Itano Tomochin, strutted over wearing sunglasses and a smirk. She called him a pervert, but then leaned into the moment, asking if he would like to see hers too. She reached for the hem of her skirt and teasingly lifted it. Minoru's brain short-circuited as he let out a confused, "Huh?" His eyes locked on the rising fabric. The skirt lifted higher, and Minoru braced himself, but Itano revealed black shorts underneath. She laughed, telling him she was just kidding. The amusement ended abruptly with the arrival of Shinoda Mariko, who looked down at the cowering Minoru with pure judgment. She wondered who the hell this guy was, calling the entire situation unbelievable, while the girls whispered among themselves whether he really wanted to see their underwear that badly. Minoru bolted down the hallway in a frantic panic, his voice cracking as he yelled over his shoulder, "I'm sorry, it was a mistake, an accident." Angry shouts from the staff and idols chased after him, demanding that he stop making excuses. Desperate to escape the dressing room behind him, he ran for his life. Back in the dressing room, the atmosphere crackled with a strange blend of outrage and fascination. One girl admitted that the intruder had a surprisingly cute, almost pretty face. Another nodded, confessing she had mistaken him for Sae. The comparisons continued as they weighed his looks against their own members. He was cuter than Takamina, they decided, and his eyes were far larger and more striking. When someone wondered if he might be cuter than Mayu, one girl flatly declared, "Not as cute as me." Yet another brought them back to reality with a sharp reminder, anyone who would do that is definitely not a real fan. Meanwhile, Minoru had ducked into a shadowed corner to catch his breath. His face burned crimson, his chest heaved, and his mind raced as distant voices still echoed through the halls. "Those idiots saying whatever they want," he muttered through clenched teeth. Just as relief began to settle, he froze. A pair of legs stood directly in front of him. He had been discovered. The scene shifted to a striking full-figure shot of Maeda Atsuko, the group's undisputed center. She stood poised and solemn in her elaborate AKB-48 performance outfit, its intricate patterns, badges, and decorative headpiece gleaming under the lights. Her expression carried a calm intensity that set her apart from the earlier chaos. In the background, a small, hunched silhouette of Minoru could be seen sprinting away with everything he had left, completely unaware of the famous members so close by. While he fled the consequences of his intrusion, Maeda remained serene in the foreground, lost in thought before stepping onto the stage. Takahashi Minami and the others suddenly halted, eyes widening as they spotted the lone figure ahead. "Ah-chan," someone whispered in a mix of awe and caution. Maeda Atsuko stood at a distance, her long shadow stretching across the floor and commanding the entire corridor. From his hiding spot, Minoru peeked out, heart hammering as he recognized the very girl his friends had mocked earlier. Maeda Atsuko, he thought, staring at the group's center. The other idols approached her cautiously. "What's up?" one asked, trying to read her mood. Takamina brushed off the earlier frenzy with a casual, "No, it's just that he went completely crazy." Still, a heavy lingered as the girls studied Maeda. She remained an enigma to everyone, including Minoru, standing silently while the hallway buzzed with lingering tension. Minoru finally found a moment of peace, slumping against a vending machine with a weary sigh. "I somehow managed to escape," he realized, breathing more steadily. He glanced around the corner, still bewildered. But what's with them? Are they really idols? To him, they had seemed like ordinary high school girls. The biggest puzzle remained. Is Yoshinaga truly their fan? Before he could dwell on it, a sudden noise yanked his attention. He spun around, eyes bulging in shock. What? The dramatic shimmer filled the air near a set of doors, signaling that something monumental was about to unfold. Pushing through the doors, Minoru was slammed by a wall of sound and blinding light. The vast Yokohama arena stretched before him, packed with a roaring sea of fans. Standing at the edge of the crowd, he could only utter a stunned "whoop" before the thunderous cheers swallowed his voice. Glow sticks waved like a luminous ocean beneath towering screens and booming speakers. Despite his earlier doubts, Minoru breathed out in awe. Wow! The reality of AKB48's massive popularity finally hit him. The normal high school girls he had fled from backstage had transformed into something far greater. At the top of the stairs, Minoru gripped the railing tightly, knuckles white, as the arena's heat and energy washed over him. So this is an AKB concert, he thought, reeling. A familiar voice pierced the noise. "Urayama-kun?" He whipped around, face flushing deep red. "Yoshinaga?" There stood his crush, leaning over a guardrail in genuine surprise. "You were here too?" she asked, then added curiously, "How many times have you come?" "It's my first," Minoru answered quickly, still dazed. He gestured vaguely toward the backstage area he had escaped, struggling to explain the whirlwind he had witnessed. Suddenly, the lights swept the stage. "Ah, they're coming out!" Yoshinaga cried, cupping her hands to join the roar. Minoru watched in disbelief as the very girls who had chased him now stormed into the spotlight. Fan chants exploded. "Achan! Haruna! Mariko! Yuko! Mayuyu! Tomochin! Takamina!" echoing through the arena. The members struck perfect poses beneath the lights, worlds away from the half-dressed chaos he had seen earlier. One idol leaned into her mic with a bright smile. "Hey there, everyone!" Minoru stood frozen, cold sweat forming as he stared. "Huh?" he muttered. "They're not—" The glamorous performers on stage refused to match the memory of the girls who had called him a pervert and pursued him through the halls. The arena erupted again as the members raised their arms in unison. "We're AKB48!" The wall of light and sound left Minoru reeling. They're so different, he thought. They're not the same at all. As the performance unfolded, he watched the dressing room girls become radiant, almost celestial under the spotlights. It's like they sparkle. They're shining, he marveled. Their poise and dazzling smiles made the earlier encounter feel like a fever dream. They're beyond high school girls, he finally admitted, understanding at last why thousands, including Yoshinaga, were so captivated. Yoshinaga beamed beside him, shouting, "Achan!" with the crowd. Minoru turned to her, puzzled. "Yoshinaga, do you like Achan?" She glanced at him, surprised, as if the answer were obvious. He pressed gently, "Do you like Achan?" Looking back at the stage, her expression softened with deep admiration. "Achan is really motivated," she explained. Minoru could only manage a stunned, "Huh?" Yoshinaga continued, defending her idol against the rumors his friends had spread. "That's why people say she's not motivated, but it's not true." While the concert thundered on, Yoshinaga shared a piece of history. "Did you know AKB's first audience was only 7 people?" Minoru stood silent, gazing from her inspired face to the stage. He was beginning to see layers he had never imagined, in the group and in the girl beside him. 7 people, he echoed, stunned. Yoshinaga painted the bleak early days, a 250-seat venue that rarely filled even half its seats. The girls had cried in sadness and worry, performing day after day to near-empty houses. Yet Achan never gave up. They stood on that stage for 365 consecutive days. Slowly, one or two more fans appeared each time, and Achan would cry tears of joy at every small victory. Deeply moved, Yoshinaga explained her devotion. There must have been tough times, she's a girl after all, but Achan stayed honest to herself. With a gentle, resolute smile, she concluded, "That's why I love Achan." Her expression then hardened with fierce loyalty. "I will never forgive anyone who makes fun of Achan." Minoru's mind flashed back to the magazine incident in class, and everything clicked. That's why she did that, he realized. A small, warm smile crept across his face. She must really love her, he thought, finding her passion utterly endearing. The day's chaos melted away as he simply savored standing beside her. Yoshinaga looked away, voice dropping to a whisper. "Don't tell anyone, okay?" A faint blush colored her cheeks. Before he could respond, she added shyly, "If only my face was as pretty as yours." Minoru blinked, flustered. "Eh? What's this all of a sudden?" She leaned closer, breath warm against his ear, and whispered the biggest secret yet. "But I'm going to an AKB audition." "Audition?" he blurted in panic. Yoshinaga quickly hushed him, eyes wide with urgency. Minoru stared, mind spinning. Yoshinaga? An idol? The image of his serious classmate now overlapped with the sparkling performers on stage. She glanced aside, insecurity creeping into her voice. "Stupid, right?" Turning back to the glowing stage, she spoke with quiet determination. "But every time I come to a concert, I want to sparkle like them." The sight of the members moving in perfect sync had ignited something deep inside her. Despite her fears, she was ready to try. Yoshinaga wore a radiant, blushing smile as she looked at him. "I want my dream to come true," she whispered, voice soft yet heavy with longing. "So don't laugh, because this will be my last." Minoru was speechless, her sincerity striking deeper than anything else that day. The scene shifted to the quiet exterior of the school at night. A sudden commotion erupted. "No! What's wrong, Hiroko?" someone cried. "Did something happen?" Another voice answered defensively. "It's okay, it's nothing." Amid the confusion, a mention of her charming point slipped out. As night deepened over Yokohama Arena, the world outside carried on, unaware of the life-altering secret Yoshinaga had shared beneath the arena lights. Minoru sprinted away from the school, rain soaking him as his thoughts screamed with new purpose. "I want Yoshinaga to make it!" Behind him, panicked voices shouted, "Urayama!" and "Hey!" But he never slowed. Insults from the day swirled in his head, the idols calling him pretty and cute, his friends mocking his burlish face, Yuko mistaking him for a girl from behind, and most of all, Yoshinaga's soft admission, "If only my face was as pretty as yours." Those words, once painful, now formed the foundation of a wild, desperate plan. But my power might be completely useless. Doubt flashed through him as he stared at an advertisement featuring a girl in pigtails. He knew he could never audition as a boy, yet if his face was his only strength, he would use it, no matter how extreme, to ensure Yoshinaga wouldn't face the dream alone. In the privacy of his bathroom, Minoru began the transformation. He winced, "Ow," as he dragged a razor across his legs, the sting matching the weight of his decision. Sweat beaded on his face while he stared at his reflection with feverish resolve. He held up a bra in silent shock, experimented with padding to shape a feminine silhouette, and tried on a headband, face half hidden in shadow. But if I can support her, he told himself, something might change. The final touches waited among wigs and accessories. He eyed a long blonde wig priced at 24,000 yen while mannequins watched silently. Standing in his cluttered room in a stuffed shirt, surrounded by discarded tissues, he prepared to cross a line he had never imagined crossing, all for Yoshinaga's dream. Staring at the mirror, Minoru's eyes widened in pure shock. "I know this is stupid," he admitted, barely recognizing the figure before him. "But is this me?" He looked away, expression hardening amid resolution amid the mess of papers and discarded items. "But I have to do something." He repeated one more time like a mantra, steeling himself for the final step. At the audition venue, tension hung thick in the air. A voice announced, "Number 23, Urayama Minori." Minoru, now fully disguised, sat with fists clenched in his lap, knuckles white. He drew a steady breath and answered firmly, yes, stepping officially into the idol world under his new identity. Dressed in the long blonde wig and feminine attire, he sat among the other hopefuls with burning focus. I don't care if they find out or what happens, he thought, brow set, as long as I can help Yoshinaga. Nearby, Yoshinaga, number 22, sat small and anxious, head bowed, unaware that her classmate was only seats away. Minoru watched her from the corner of his eye, silently urging, "You can do it, Yoshinaga." Despite the rock shirt and defiant posture meant to mask his true self, the weight of the moment pressed down on him. He had become a spy in enemy territory, risking everything to stand beside the girl he cared for. Akimoto-sensei, the legendary producer behind AKB48, arrived to respectful greetings. As he straightened his suit, he learned Maeda Atsuko would join later. "What? Achan? Why?" he exclaimed. Staff could only describe her as, like a cat, such a free girl. Setting the topic aside, Akimoto turned to the auditions. Was there anyone wearing black clothes? He asked pointedly. The staff scrambled in confusion. Eh? Hey, was there? I don't know. The color isn't listed. He scolded them bluntly, then gazed across the venue with a knowing smirk. Today's auditions might get a little crazy. Sunlight poured over the audition site as Yoshinaga stood rigid with nerves, her number 22 tag trembling slightly. Minoru, now Minori, number 23, watched her intently from his seat. She seems really nervous, he noted, his protective gaze never leaving her.